The ridiculously long saga of Delaynie love Agresta-kun, the average high school student turned SSS rank healer who defeats the Demon King, befriends rebels and clowns, and gets entangled in a romance-packed, action-fueled battle for survival that no one saw coming, featuring the likes of Emma-chan, the dog-loving rebel, Livvy-san, the bad-grade genius, Hailey-senpai, the strong class clown, Ariel-senpai, the school beauty, Landon-chan, the school's fabulous gay guy that had Lilli-senpai, the Gore enthusiast, Travis-kun, the chilled-out nonchalant guy, and Deya-sensei, the teacher who knows too much. Chapter 1. An ordinary day turns extraordinary. Delaynie love. Agresta was your typical high school student, or at least that's what he thought. His mornings consisted of the usual rush, grabbing a slice of toast, tossing his school uniform on, and getting to class just in time to avoid a tardy slip. He was a Class C rank student, nothing remarkable about him. In fact, he thought of himself as, well, average. Not too good at anything, but not terrible either. But that all changed one fateful day. Delaynie-kun, stop gaming and pay attention. Hailey-senpai, the class clown, bellowed from the back of the room, tossing a rolled-up piece of paper at his head. Right, Delaynie muttered, slipping his phone into his pocket and forcing his attention on the front of the classroom. Deya-sensei was rambling on about some history lesson, totally unimportant in Delaynie's book. Then, a flash of black smoke erupted into the room, followed by a menacing laughter that chilled everyone's bones. The Demon King had arrived. Delaynie's first instinct was to protect the others, but what could he possibly do? He was just an average kid. Or so he thought. As the Demon King raised his hand to attack, something inside Delaynie clicked. He stepped forward, instinctively reaching out to the person nearest to him, Emma-chan, the rebel student and dog lover who was always ready for a fight. As his hand touched her, an overwhelming surge of power coursed through him. A brilliant glow enveloped his body as an energy he'd never felt before took hold. Delaynie, what are you? Emma's voice faltered, and then the Demon King froze, his attack dissipating as the force of Delaynie's healing ability radiated outward. The students gasped, and Delaynie's heart raced. He had just healed everyone in the room, every injury, every bruise, every scrape, simply by touching Emma. And then he realized something even more terrifying. He wasn't just healing people, he was healing the world around him. Did I just do that? Delaynie gasped. Did I just heal everyone? Delaynie-kun, Livvy-san, Emma's twin sister, whispered, staring at him in awe. What the heck did you just do? The room fell into stunned silence. No one had ever seen anything like it. Delaynie's newfound power wasn't just remarkable, it was legendary. SS rank. No one had ever heard of it before, let alone someone achieving it in such a drastic way. But that wasn't the only surprise in store for Delaynie. Chapter 2, a new world, a new power, and new friends. As the days passed, Delaynie's life became increasingly bizarre. People began whispering about the healing SSSS student who had saved the school from the Demon King. Emma-chan, Livvy-san, Hailey-senpai, and the rest of the gang became his closest allies. Ariel-senpai, the school beauty who was usually surrounded by admirers, found herself strangely drawn to him. Delaynie-kun, you really are different now, she said one day after class. Different? I just heal people? Delaynie mumbled, still getting used to his powers. Ariel smiled softly. You saved everyone's life. That's not something just anyone can do. Landon-chan, the school's openly gay guy and Deya-sensei's favorite student, clapped him on the back. Dude, you've got the whole school wrapped around your finger now. You're a literal hero. I think you're going to be swimming in admirers any second. But I don't want to be a hero, Delaynie replied, a frown tugging at his lips. I just want to be normal. Travis-kun, the perpetually chill guy, shrugged. Normal's overrated. You might as well enjoy the ride. Meanwhile, Lilli-senpai, the girl who found humor in the macabre, had a slightly different reaction. That power, it's so much more than healing, isn't it? She said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. You could do so much more with that kind of power. Imagine the possibilities. Her voice trailed off, as if already plotting something sinister. Delaynie had barely scratched the surface of his newfound abilities when more dangers began to surface. The Demon King wasn't the only threat, and Delaynie's SSS rank made him a target for all sorts of dangerous forces. To make matters worse, his feelings for Emma-chan were starting to grow more complicated. She wasn't just a rebel with a love for dogs anymore. She was someone he couldn't stop thinking about. Chapter 3. Battles, Bonds, and Unlikely Romance. As the battles raged on, Delaynie found himself caught between saving his school, controlling his healing power, and navigating the complex relationships with his friends. Hailey-senpai challenged him to become stronger, while Livvy-san always pushed him to think outside the box. Ariel-senpai, meanwhile, had a side to her no one expected. She wasn't just the perfect beauty, she had secrets of her own, ones that delayed Delaynie's realization that perhaps she was falling for him too. But nothing could prepare him for the moment when Emma-chan grabbed his hand in the heat of battle, her rebellious spirit matching his newfound strength. You're the only one who can save us, Delaynie. I believe in you. And just like that, their fates intertwined, an unlikely pair of heroes, destined to fight side by side, and perhaps find love amidst the chaos. The battle against the Demon King was far from over, but Delaynie knew one thing for certain, he wasn't alone anymore. Chapter 4. Tangled Hearts and Unveiled Powers. The aftermath of the Demon King's defeat had left the school in a state of uneasy peace. Delaynie Love Agresta, now known as the SSS rank healer, was still processing everything. His power, his newfound fame, and the mysterious forces pulling at his heart. Yet there was something far more complex brewing within the walls of the school, a love triangle. Emma-chan, the fiery and rebellious student who had always kept him on his toes, had grown closer to Delaynie with each passing day. She was no longer just the girl who loved dogs and loved to challenge authority. She had become his emotional anchor, his confidant. But there was something else about Emma-chan that he couldn't ignore, something deeper that tugged at his heart whenever their hands brushed or their eyes locked. But then there was Ariel-senpai, the school beauty who had always been the center of attention. Despite her popularity and the many admirers vying for her affection, she had quietly taken an interest in Delaynie. She wasn't the type to show her feelings outwardly, but Delaynie could feel her gaze lingering on him a little too long, her words carrying a weight he hadn't been able to shake off. One afternoon, while walking to the courtyard after class, he found himself surrounded by both of them. Delaynie-kun, Ariel-senpai's soft voice called out, drawing his attention. She was standing by the fountain, her usual entourage nowhere in sight. I need to talk to you. Delaney's heart skipped a beat, but he tried to remain calm. Sure, what's up? She hesitated for a moment before stepping closer. I know we've never really had a chance to talk outside of school events, but I just wanted to say, you're incredible. What you did that day, saving everyone, it made me realize how special you truly are. Her words were sincere, but there was a certain vulnerability in her eyes that he hadn't expected from someone so poised. I admire you, Delaynie-kun, more than you know. Before he could respond, a voice broke through the air, fierce and slightly annoyed. Hey, Delaynie-kun, don't tell me you're ignoring me now. Emma-chan, always straightforward, appeared at the edge of the courtyard, hands on her hips. You're not going to go all swoony-eyed on Ariel-senpai, are you? Ariel-senpai looked over at Emma with a raised eyebrow, while Delaynie felt his face flush with embarrassment. Emma-chan, it's not like that, Delaynie stammered, hoping to ease the tension. But the truth was, he wasn't sure what it was anymore. Well, I wouldn't mind if it was, Emma retorted with a grin, though there was a hint of something deeper in her tone, something that hinted she might not just be teasing. Delaynie didn't know how to handle this. Both girls were important to him, but in different ways. Emma was always the unpredictable force that kept him on his toes, while Ariel had this calm allure that made him feel like maybe he wasn't just an average kid anymore. Delaynie began, but was interrupted by a sudden explosion in the distance, causing the ground to tremble beneath their feet. Chapter 5. Power Unleashed. The trio wasted no time rushing toward the source of the explosion. As they turned the corner, they saw several other students standing frozen in shock, staring at a large figure towering in front of the school gates. A monster, twice the size of any normal demon, was wreaking havoc on the campus. It had thick, dark scales, glowing red eyes, and enormous claws that ripped through the concrete like butter. What is that? Emma shouted, already summoning her courage. Her rebellious nature kicked in, ready to take on anything that threatened her home. I've never seen anything like it, Delaynie exclaimed, but his concern wasn't just for the students. He knew that this was more than a typical threat. This was a battle that would test everything he had. Without hesitation, Delaynie stepped forward, his hand instinctively reaching out to Emma, who stood beside him, her eyes wide with determination. I'll heal anyone who gets hurt, Delaynie said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. You guys take care of the rest. Don't worry, we've got your back. Hailey-senpai's voice rang out from behind them, the class clown grinning as she flexed her muscles. She was more than just a jokester. She had strength beyond measure, and when the time came, she used it without hesitation. But even Hailey's strength wasn't enough to match the sheer power of the beast that loomed before them. Emma-chan, always ready for a fight, immediately rushed forward, her rebellious fire lighting up the air. Come on, you overgrown lizard. Let's see what you've got. As she charged at the creature, her movements were swift and precise, and for a moment, Delaynie was reminded of the fearless spirit that had always defined Emma-chan. But before he could act, something surprising happened. Ariel-senpai, normally the picture of elegance, stepped forward too. With a flick of her wrist, a blinding light emanated from her hand. I may not be the warrior type, she said, her voice strong with conviction, but I'll do what I can. The light from her hand expanded, forming a protective barrier around the students, deflecting the monster's attacks. That's your power? Delaynie asked in awe. Ariel-senpai had never shown any sign of fighting prowess before. I've trained in secret, she replied, her gaze intense. I'm not just a pretty face, you know. As the battle raged on, other students began to reveal their abilities as well. Landon-chan, the carefree gay guy, was surprisingly adept at manipulating sound waves to disorient enemies. Lilli-senpai, the girl obsessed with Gore, didn't hesitate to get up close, using her ability to manipulate sharp objects from the environment to slice through the monster's hide. But no one's power was quite as extraordinary as Delaynie's. With his healing abilities, he didn't just save people, he turned the tide of the battle, revitalizing his friends and teammates in real time. But even with all his strength, he couldn't do it alone. He needed the others. He needed Emma-chan, Ariel-senpai. It was in this moment, amid the chaos of battle, that Delaynie realized something. His heart wasn't just torn between two people, it was torn between two worlds. One of loyalty and fire, the other of elegance and quiet strength. And no matter what he chose, the future would be a dangerous and unpredictable journey.